Hello everyone, my name is Zach. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well today. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about problematic content in books and why I think we should engage with it and not cancel it. So I've been thinking a lot recently since joining BookTube about BookTube and sort of book cancel culture, and specifically the idea that a lot of people have that if a book has problematic content, we need to cancel it, shut it down, boycott it, not read it, and I really don't like that attitude. For one, to me personally, that really rings of censorship. Saying that you can't include problematic content in books basically is censorship, and I think everyone here agrees that censorship and banning books is not a good thing, so maybe we shouldn't? But also I think by canceling these books and not reading them, we lose a critical opportunity for thought and reflection, and a serious missed opportunity to enter into a debate. What do I mean? Allow me to explain. Hey guys, editing Zach here, because it's not one of my videos unless I have to add or correct something, right? Anyway, I neglected to talk about two quick things, so I wanted to cover these real quick. First of all, I'm talking about engaging with problematic content in this video, and obviously engaging with problematic content usually is a little bit uncomfortable, but I want to stress if you don't feel safe or comfortable talking about a topic or reading about it and you feel the need to stop or avoid it, that's completely fine. Don't sacrifice your mental health just for a book or for a discussion or debate. That's not what I'm saying here. Also, there's going to be the question of, well, should we buy these books? And if you don't want to buy a book because it has problematic or potentially problematic content, I would just like to remind everyone that you can apply for ARCs depending on how big you are. You can try your library, you can buy from used bookstores, or see if one of your friends has the book so that you can read it before you decide whether or not you want to support said book. So with all this out of the way, I'm going to drop you back in the video. First, I want to point out that just because something appears in a book does not mean the author necessarily agrees with those points. One classic example of this is A Modest Proposal by Jonathan Swift. Jonathan Swift was living in Ireland and he saw rampant poverty and overpopulation problems, and he started writing moderate proposals for legislation to help Ireland improve and help living conditions improve. Unfortunately, a lot of these proposals were rejected by Irish Parliament, and they were deemed unworkable or too radical, and they wouldn't accept anything. So out of frustration, Jonathan Swift wrote an anonymous proposal that became a modest proposal. So in the proposal, the narrator claims that the perfect solution to poverty and overpopulation in Ireland would be for women to have babies and then sell the babies off to English elite as a delicacy to eat. Now, if infanticide and cannibalism is not problematic content, I don't know what is. But I highly doubt that Jonathan Swift would seriously endorse cannibalism or infanticide. He's writing a character, the narrator is a character, and he's using the problematic content contained within to draw attention to the fact that Irish Parliament was rejecting moderate proposals as extreme or illogical, so he decided to go to the extreme and give an actual illogical, really messed up proposal to show by comparison that his moderate policies and the other moderate policies being suggested at the time were actually good. The problematic content had a point. He wasn't serious about it. He wanted to make people think. It makes sense sometimes that problematic contents in books aren't always reflective of the author's personal opinions. They're writing a character, and sometimes they're doing it on purpose to make the person think or so that they can show the person changing along the way. By just pointing out that the book has problematic content, sometimes you ignore that context. But that being said, sometimes problematic content in books does reflect the author's personal opinions. And this is where we get into one of my favorite books, Robert A. Heinlein's Starship Troopers. So Robert A. Heinlein is often referred to as the dean of science fiction. He wrote a ton of books, and he really helped expand the genre. He started out writing books for teens, early young adult literature, if you will, but as he got older, he started to release adult books. And a lot of those adult books had content that people would consider problematic, especially at the time. So that being said, let's talk about Starship Troopers and the problematic content contained in this book. In this book, the main character, Rico, talks about his experience with a class called History and Moral Philosophy, and there are a bunch of excerpts from the teacher of that class who talks about his opinions their society and kind of put some thoughts out there. One of the longest and most important segments in this series of flashbacks is one in which they explore why their society has become fascist and why the character, and I believe by extension Robert A. Heinlein, believed that fascism was a good idea. In the back half of the novel, there's a really long speech given by the teacher of history and moral philosophy in which he explains why only those who have served in the military have been granted citizenship and why that's a good idea. As far as I know, basically, he's promoting fascism. So, before I read this book, if you'd asked me, why is fascism bad, I would have said, because Hitler and Mussolini. Well, not necessarily a bad argument. I mean, I don't know many people that really agree that those were good people. Someone might say, okay, but what if you had a society run by military citizens without the racism, anti-Semitism, and homophobia? Would that be a bad society? And before I read this, I wouldn't have been able to give you an answer because I never really thought about it. But as I was reading this, I started to think more about the idea of a military-run society, and a society where only military veterans are given the opportunity to have a say in what happens in society, and I realized that, yes, I do have some ideas as to why that's a bad thing. For one, I'm type 1 diabetic, so I'm not allowed in the military, and for good reason. If something were to happen, my sugar were to drop in a critical crisis situation, not only could I die, but I could cause the deaths of several others around me. While it's frustrating that diabetics are not given the chance to serve in the military, it makes sense. That being said, if you have a society in which your right to be a citizen, your right to have a say in what your government does, hinges upon your opportunity to serve in the military, that means your society, by default, is ableist. It means that in this society, if you're born with certain illnesses, or if you're in an accident and you have to have something amputated, you are automatically less of a person. That's something I never would have considered when arguing against fascism before I read this. Additionally, there's the idea that if military service is what grants you citizenship, what happens when your military becomes competitive? Suddenly now, citizenship isn't about your valor or your patriotism, it's a competition to see if you have what it takes to be given the opportunity to earn citizenship. And that's not okay either. Also, what happens if you have skills that are valuable to your country and to your government, but those skills aren't necessarily militaristic or applicable to the military? These are all things I would suggest when people ask me why I disagree with the idea of fascism, and I never would have had any of those if I hadn't read this. Essentially, what I did by engaging with problematic content is I entered a debate. I was given an argument, I had time to think about it, and now I have arguments against that. This is why I think engaging in problematic content is good. It makes you think, it makes you reflect, and it makes you a more articulate person when it comes to certain beliefs. I would highly suggest everyone take opportunities to engage in problematic content that you feel safe engaging. If it's something you feel safe reading, engaging with the content sometimes will give you a more refined and more articulate position, and that can be a great thing. So I hope that made sense, and I hope next time you hear that a book's problematic, you might consider picking it up so that you can engage in the discourse. If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up, feel free to subscribe if you feel so inclined, and I will see you next time.